looks like Noda is going to be your winner of this Portuguese Grand Prix. Rossi is your champion. JJ splits the middle, gets past both drivers. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've stuck around this long, welcome back to Emilia, or again, as it should be properly introduced, the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari. Better known as Emilia, of course, 3.05 miles of racing in the town of Emilia in the Emilia Romagna region of Italy. It's counterclockwise. We saw a lot of exciting action in Split 2, a lot of fun things coming up. We're waiting on qualifying to get underway here, but I wanted to take a few minutes and welcome everyone back and just introduce the league here. If you're new to the league, of course, this is Fox's Racing League, better known as FRL. We are set up for a great 32 laps here at Emilia after one 18-minute qualifying session, and I have a surprise for everyone. I'm not running solo here for Split 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming back to the commentary booth, fresh off the racetrack, is the wonderful, wonderful friend of mine, Syntax.
Hello everybody in my beautiful English. No, but it is a pleasure as always to comment there with you, Bradley. Thank you so much, and it's so nice to be here once again. Oh my days, I really missed this moment with you when we can watch all together, all my really good friends on the track. And from the other side, oh my lord, it's going to be very interesting. It's so good to be back.
Oh, it's so great to have you back, Syntax. Of course, Syntax kicking off my commentary days here in FRL, a great partner of mine. Syntax, of course, was a Split 1 racer. Me and Syntax would handle Split 2. We'd run Split 1. Syntax taking a step back from racing, which is always respected. And Syntax, we're going to pick up with a reigning qualifying session here in Emilia.
Exactly, that's why I'm so happy. Because I'm so glad that I don't have to do that. But to be honest, of course, it's always something fresh, something new for us. And both of us know, and every single person that is watching FRL exactly knows how the qualifying session in wet can be looks like, especially that we have a very, very interesting grid in this season. Maybe just focus on today grid on the track with the qualification session. I need to focus on few teams because for me the fight will be so tight and it will be becoming the legendary. We have Jack and Gregson in Ferrari. We have JJ and Debe in Williams. We have Tazo and Mate in Red Bull. We have Kashti and no one else that is going on my seat. Rolowski, show them what you got, and that breaks give you some advantage to take a lesson from previous seasons, and maybe you will show something new. We want to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, one of the names I'm excited to see back is Rolowski. If you are familiar with FRL, you're familiar with Rolowski, and you're familiar with the battles of Rolowski and Jack. A big staple point for seasons 3, 4, and 5 here. Roloski coming back in, filling in that reserve seat that's opened up in AlphaTauri this week since Syntex has decided to stay out of the rain here. We see a lot of drivers here on outlaps early, and of course, if you're not familiar with Imola, it's a fairly quick lap. It's about a minute 17, minute 18 in the dry. In the wets, we saw intermediate tires doing about 125. I would say we're going to see qualifying laps here in the high 127s, 128s here with the wet tires. I don't know if it's expected to dry up here as we go through. Jack being our first driver to start a lap. The Tifosi are going to love to see the Ferrari out early. Syntex, do you have any tips for any drivers that might for some reason be listening to the stream as they drive?
Be careful on Imola. It's a very tricky track, especially that it has a lot of high ground. When you will add too fast throttle, you can easily spin. So that is almost a guarantee for that. So this is the main tip from me. And of course, just to race clearly and have a fun, because this is all about, right?
Absolutely. The big thing here we do in FRL is we have fun every Sunday, coming at you at 7 o'clock Central European time, 8:30 Central European time is split 1 usually, but it follows split 2. So if split 2 runs a few minutes over, we run a couple minutes through. Jack with a big moment there. Still purple middle sector. Of course, first person to put in a time in the middle sector, but big moment there. Almost losing the back end going through Aqua Minerale. That was very, very sketchy, but able to keep the wheels underneath and keep things through. And as we see drivers starting to go out on outlaps and push laps, everybody's on the wet tires, and you can see just how timid everyone is being. Jack's going to put in our first representative time here, and we'll see what this time is, and then we'll see what other drivers come through. Jack with a 1:30.4 to kick off the timing charts here. Teammate Graxon will be the next driver to come through, and Graxon's going to be a 1:28.6, so 2 seconds up there on the time Jack put in early. Jack, of course, had that moment in Aqua Minerale, and now we've got Buchik 1:28.5. We'll continue to see drivers come around. John Meister 1:27.4. Kashti is coming through Aqua Minerale now, but we're continuing to see drivers cross the line here and put in times in Syntex. I would imagine we're going to have a fairly close fight for all of these cars, and if we see the track dry up as this qualifying session goes, I feel like we should see things get very, very close by the end of the session.
Yeah, I can fully agree with that. Of course, it's so strange to see the Jack without the pace, because he's one of the fastest racers on the track, of course. But he missed some previous races, so I hope Jack will come back to us and we will see him more regular from week to week, and especially Jack coming back to his previous glory, because we know that Jack can be a really dangerous driver, of course, from perspective for the other drivers. But for now, John Meister with the fastest lap on qualification session, 1 minute 27.4. Wasserschwein and Jack just improved his time. So we have Jack on P2, Wasserschwein P3, Ignaz Barnash on P4, Kashti P5, Buchek, Nota, Gregson, and Vixie. This is how top 9 racers just looks like. Also, the Bemolino Gaucho just joined them on the P4.
Absolutely. Still have half the grid to put in times to start out there, and that is going to be Tazo jumping into P2 there with a 1:27.6 in the Red Bull, so very competitive time coming in there. Now we've got 6 drivers left to put in time. You've got Barthez, who is going through here, coming out of Ravazza to put in a time, and it seems like it's going to be a fairly good time coming through for Barthez. Yellow flag sector 3, I believe that is just for Roloski going a little slow there. Barthez comes out 1:29.7, currently our slowest time in P15. Bernard is coming out of Ravazza as well. We'll see where Bernard puts himself here for a lap time. Comes across and puts in a 1:29.0, good enough for P14 there in the Silver Arrow. We've got Matush, Extrarek, Roloski, and JJ to put in times. 3 of them are on outlaps. Extrarek has yet to leave the pits, though. Wonder if Extrarek is going to try to hold on here and wait for some better weather, or if they will decide to go out. Matush starting a flying lap here, and if you're not familiar with Imola, riding on board for this lap here with the Haas is a lot of fun. Driver coming through Tamburello, heading down towards Villeneuve. And of course, if you know the names Tamburello, Villeneuve, you should know the names. Very, very famous names here in the world of F1 as they run down now through Tosa, which is turn 7, a good uphill left-hander. John Meister puts in a 127.4. Maddie responds with a 127.3, so continuing to see times improve. But look at the traction loss the Haas has coming out, heading down towards Piratella. It's very, very hard to keep traction in these cars. Very, very gentle on the curbs. And now we head through Aqua Minerale, and this is going to be the most dangerous part of the track here as we go through. Of course, Imola is essentially 3 bus stop chicanes and a few sweeping left-handers, but it's a fun track nonetheless. And here we go through Variante Alta. Again, very, very timid on the curbs as we run through. And there's that traction loss we were talking about. You can see fighting to keep grip there. Matouche is Castia 127.1. Drivers continuing to improve and put in times. Roloski and JJ are on push laps, so we'll check in with them in just a moment. Matouche very timid through the final corner here, and we'll see where Matouche is going to bring it through after that onboard lap. And Matouche will come across with a 127.9 P8, but with lots of traction loss through, I would imagine there's a lot more time to be found there in that Haas. Roloski is coming through Aqua Minerale here, and we'll see if Roloski is able to respond to Casti's 127.1 and put in a competitive time here in the AlphaTauri. And Roloski's purple middle sector, Syntax, it looks like Roloski might be coming in and just reminding everyone why he is a former FRL champion.
Oh yeah, and I guess everyone should be fully focused, and of course you just can't forget that Roloski is the previous FRL champion. So yeah, just let's see where Roloski finished in front of the Casti. So this is something new. Casti probably wouldn't expect that someone might be faster than you. Casti is really focusing on the leading on the qualification session every time. As me as his former partner, I know that he really wants to be always the fastest one on the grid, but not right now. As we can see, the raining weather might be a little bit problematic for every single driver, but for me that's also a very good aspect, because this also can give advantage for every single driver. So you can probably agree with me, Brad, that there is no weak drivers. Every single one of them might be on a very high place on the grid with this on the start of the race, of course. But in general, in this season, we have a really strong grid lane.
Yeah, I'm looking at the finishing places here and where everyone's at in the Drivers' Championship. Of course, Tazo is currently leading the Drivers' Championship. Casti is P2 in the Drivers' Championship, Maddie P3. But looking through, I mean, the gaps are extremely close. It's 66 points separating P1 to P20 in the Drivers' Championship. No one really has had consistent DNFs except for Bimolino and JJ that have had just some very unfortunate luck for the first 4 races. Of course, race 5 here, our next race will give us the turnaround to the back half of the season. JJ coming across the line, P6, 127.537. So very, very competitive times here. Looking at the gaps here, we're just 1 second separates the top 8 and 2 seconds separates the top 18. So very competitive grid that we've got here all the way through, and it's a lot of fun to watch these drivers continue to compete. Of course, everyone on the wet tires. Roloski has done 2 laps and has a 126.664 to his name there for provisional pole. Matouche answers, though, with a 126.512. So drivers are just staying out and doing continuous push laps. Of course, Jack has done 4 laps on his wet compound tires, 3 laps for Casti on the wet tires. Matouche, that was his 3rd lap on those wet tires, and drivers are continuing to find time. And at this point, I wonder if they're just staying out, fueling up, and doing several long runs instead of the traditional outlap push in lap that we usually see from drivers.
Tazo right now just improving his time, and he jumped into P3 currently, 1 minute 26.8. So he's still losing to Mateusz because this is a really impressive time, 1 minute 26.5 and point 6 for Orlowski. Now Tazo have a little bit problems with the grip, but everything looks fine. He decided to step back on the another hot lap, and probably he will go to the pit lane just to pick up a new pair of fresh tires. But also we can see that every single driver possibly is trying to get the best lap as possible. Graxen is also doing right now another a hot lap, but he is still struggling a little bit with the grip. I hope it wouldn't be that effective in the race, and of course we still don't know how the race is going to look like on the specifically on the race. But I hope it will be for the preferences, because from my perspective as a former driver, the races of the in the rain are much more difficult, because you have to stay focused on the whole 32 laps, right? And when it's a sunny weather, you have a more place for fighting. You have more place for going each wheel to wheel with the other drivers. Yeah, so you have a much more space to do any other things. Than you don't have to fully focus on your grip on the wet compound.
Absolutely, and one of the things we're seeing here is the focus on grip being very important. We see Graxent purple middle sector. They're able to get those corner exits out of Aqua Minerale and not lose the back end through the corner exits. Graxent's going to come across and put in a 127.21, improves up to P6, but we know Graxent has a lot of pace, and it is just that focusing. This can be a very, very difficult race for drivers if they have to focus in and really use, you can't check out for even a second whenever you are driving in the wet, especially when you're driving close and you've got the spray in front of you from the car in front. You've got cars behind that are wanting to get past you. There's a lot of things you have to focus on as a driver in wet weather driving that you don't have to worry about whenever it's nice and sunny and 25 degrees outside, and you don't have to think about, the spray in front or losing traction on a corner exit. And these drivers have to adapt their driving style. And this really, for me, is the equalizer. Of course, the infamous Monaco wet weather race syntax. I will always refer to it as the best wet weather race and best wet weather driving I've ever seen, because it shows the example of when a driver can focus in and drive well, you can do some amazing things in wet weather and see drivers do some very, very impressive runs.
Yeah, but also we don't have to. I'm sorry. We cannot forget that difficulty of the racing in a specific weather like this. It's getting so much higher. So expectations on the drivers are also increasing. So that's also a very important thing that we cannot forget. But let's focus on the grid, because we forget to mention that Storek probably had a moment, as you call it, and he probably spun and crashed himself, so he didn't make a single lap, and he will be starting as a last person on the grid. Also, Nota improved his time from the P18. He jumped into the P14. Right now, Wasserstein also improved his time, and from the P17 he jumped into the P10. Mate right now crashed himself, and he wouldn't be able to improve his time. So currently P8 for Mate.
Yeah, Matty losing traction there, coming out of, where was he on track? That was Toza. He was coming out of and lost traction. Oh my goodness. Drivers are just having to hold on here, and really, at this point, we're under 2 minutes to go, so every driver's on track lapping, trying to put in times. We see Noda now improving the P9. JJ now retiring out of the session. It looks like JJ losing it there out of turn 13 or Aqua Minerale, depending on how you know the track. And now we are down to just 16 drivers circulating on track, putting in times. Bartha is in the pits, but everybody else on outlaps here. And we see Drivers just continuing to try to push through. Roloski is on a brand new set of wet weather tires, and we'll see if Roloski is able to improve. Jack now retiring out of the session there. I don't know where Jack was.
Oh
Roloski,
my lord.
half a second up, 126.0 with just under a minute to go, I believe here. We'll wait to see. Yep, a minute 5 left to go. We've got yellow flags every sector, spins in every sector. Roloski doing a celebratory 360, I'm going to call it, coming out of Tamburello.
Every single sector, just right now when you were talking, every single sector have some incident, and I was jumping really fast between the drivers, and I saw like 4 spins in every single sector. So yeah, it shows how much difficult the Imola in the rain weather really is.
Absolutely, and we're down to 30 seconds left. So as you see, Matouche have a big moment there, but going purple first sector, so this might be a good lap we see from Matouche going through. But you're 30 seconds left in qualifying. At this point, what do you have to lose? Put it all on the track and just send it through. And as we can see, that is what Matouche is doing with some big moments there, going through Piratella towards Aqua Minerale and trying to hold on to it. At this point, the drivers are just going to leave it all on the track and let the lap time speak for themselves, because we don't know if the race will be dry or wet or what it'll be.
Kashti, now Tazo just spun, so there is no possibility for them to improve the time. Also, we see a Pujas that is driving on the grass, so oh, this is going to be a very funny and interesting race, not gonna lie. Dormati also right now spun out on the last corner, so he wouldn't improve his time either. As we now can see, the beautiful skills from the Dormati driving on backwards. But the first one that will finish his qualification session, of course, is Debe, Bartes and Wasserfein. Debe placing himself on P18, Bartes P19, Wasserfein P8. Of course, the drivers that DNF'd will stay currently on their positions. We also have to wait for other drivers just to finish the lap, and or maybe I will say like this, go to the pit lane just to park their car.
John Meister coming out of the final corner here out of Ravazza and improves to a 126.667. So John Meister into P3 there. Tazo's coming across the line, and Tazo is down pretty significantly, so won't be an improvement there for Tazo, locking in P4. Kashti P5, Gract at P6. Drivers are just happy to survive this qualifying section. So they're just slinging it through. Last driver to come across is going to be Pujas in P7 going into the pits here. In Syntax, that's our qualifying session over. Roloski, Matouche, John Meister, Tazo, Kashti, Graxent, Pujas, Wasserschwein, Bernard, Matty Noda, Maverick in P12, JJ, Buchik, Ignis, Bimolino Gaucho, Jack, Debe, Barthez, and Extraek, who didn't set a qualifying lap, rounding out our grid here for this wet weather qualifying session.
And we have to admit that Roloski showed his dominance. It was a half of the second.
And in just a short little bit of time, within the next minute or so, we should be live for 32 laps here at Imola, and a lot of action about to come our way. We're not sure on the weather. Of course, we were prepped for dry racing, but the weather does as it does. 19 turns here in Imola, and you've got 12 to the left, 9 to the right, and it ends up being a great amount of action here and passing opportunities around one DRS zone. But if you're a little late on the brakes and you're a little brave, you can have a very, very good run there into turn 1 or diving down into Ravazza, which are also known as 17 and 18. And Syntax, lots of action I think we are to be prepared for that should be coming our way here just momentarily.
Yeah, of course, but we have to say that strictly, Bradley. There's nothing new that drivers can show us, and we know every single maneuver that they have, they know, and I'm not going to be surprised. I'm sure about it.
You say that, but drivers surprise me every week with something, so we'll see where things go here as we line up. We're waiting on the lobby to kick up. It looks like we're still waiting on a couple drivers to load in, and then we will be set up 30 seconds to the grid at that point, and that gives the drivers 30 seconds to load their setups in, make sure they've got their race planned out and their pit strategies going through. Of course, last time we were here, Syntax, we had Zelazny, Kuba, and Bernard were our winners. Zelazny has won both times that we've had Imola, Season 4 and Season 5. Zelazny holds the lap record, and Zelazny holds the quali lap record. Zelazny has the most points scored here, but Zelazny is not here. So who will we see take the name of the podium here in Imola?
I really missed this question, and as always, I cannot answer it. Yeah, if Rolowski will be possible to hold his pace, he is really able to reach the podium for, as always, of course. But also, we cannot forget that we have Tazo, we have Jag, we have Mate, we have a very good presenting past few weeks. Buciek, we have also Mateusz. We have Draxent, we have Kashti. We have a lot of different drivers that can possibly stand on the podium. So, as I mentioned before in the qualifications session, current grid lane is really tough to predict which driver can be possible standing on the podium. And even on the qualification session, it's so difficult to predict which one might be starting from the pole position. Nevertheless, as we can see, the weather is sunny, so I hope they will surprise me something new, that we would not see a single contact between the drivers. That will really surprise me, to be honest, but this is the thing that I would like to see in this current race.
Of course.
Is that a answer to your question?
I think it does answer my question. I wonder, is Tazo going to be able to get his third win in a row? Will Kashti be able to secure his third podium this season? It's all going to be figured out now as we go on the grid here. 5 red lights, and we are underway for round 5 here with Rolowski in the lead. Mateusz getting away well. John Meister getting away very well, though, and already has the run on Mateusz as we run through. Drivers going 3 wide down in the run towards turn 1, heading towards Tamburello. Will they settle out single file? They won't there. John Meister knocked back into P4. It seems like everyone got through the beginning very well, except for potentially a couple cars in the back there. That is Maverick and Ignis that have spun there out of turn 2. And now as we head through, you can see the silver arrows. Puhash and Bernard trying to attack Kashti. Kashti going around the outside. Puhash on the inside, getting away well. And now we're side by side coming up the run towards Piratella. And as the drivers go here, Kashti settles in P5, Puhash P6, Bernard P7, but Rolowski half a second away. Syntax will touch on tires and strategy in a moment. And Aqua Minerale comes around for the first time, and drivers are getting through very well. And we see there, that is the Aston Martin of Wasserschwein going wide. Extract trying to take advantage, but Syntax, we're 1 lap through, and we had just a couple of people fall out early on.
Exactly, and about the strategy, AWS said, as always, medium to hard, hard to medium, depends from the driver which one he preferred. Kashti just right now overtake John Meister, and we see Kashti on the P4, but John Meister wouldn't step back in that fight. Let's see that he's going almost wheel to wheel. Will be the John Meister able to catch out the Kashti and going into the first corner? No, John Meister decided to get it clearly, and that's how it should be done by Kashti, of course. Now we're seeing that a lot of drivers struggling in the first sector with the first 2 corners, so yeah, it's kind of strange, but also it's something new. As we can see right now, we have a really mixed grid, because Jack is currently P18, Buciek P19, and Ignash is currently P12. So yeah, the really fast drivers at the end of the grid, anything might happen, but it's only the second lap. And also about the strategy, I heard some news about Buciek strategy. I think right now, I hope I wouldn't be spoiled in maybe some engineers watching us, so we want to greet all of you. But I heard some of the drivers want to try double pitch strategy. So this might be something new, but probably most of the drivers will stay with the hards to mediums and mediums to hards because it's the quickest way.
Absolutely, but one of the things we know, Syntax, and we know this very well, is safety cars change everything. We saw a safety car in split 2, one safety car lead to another safety car, and we saw that mix up the grid quite a bit with some split strategies, which of course we saw fastest laps at the end of the race. We saw just a lot of fun things in split 2, and now we're seeing a lot of fun here with Noda, Bernard, and Graxent trying to chase each other down here. Noda under pressure from Bernard, half a second back. Graxent 0.3 of a second back there in P9. Of course, Ferrari, this is their home track. They want to do very well, and hopefully Ferrari will be the ones to get the right pit strategy come the end of the race, as Graxent seems to have the right line here and is having a run on Bernard as they head towards Aqua Minerale for the third time, and Bernard has to go wide there and loses it and goes straight into the wall. That is a DNF for Bernard, and I believe, Syntax, that should bring out our first safety car.
And as you told, we have, after 3 laps, first safety car. Now, I didn't show the whole situation. Can you tell us that it was a contact between the drivers, or he just spun on the curb?
Bernard missed his, from what I could tell, Bernard missed his braking point going in, and unfortunately when he tried to come back on the track, the rear lost traction, it snapped him around, and then those walls are very, very close on the inside of the exit of Aqua Minerale, or turn 13, depending on how you know it, and that was what put him into the wall there. But safety car is out, or is it a VSC? I'm trying to tell which it is. It is a VSC, actually, so...
Yeah. It's VSC. We don't have a safety car on the track. Even though it's a really good information for the last 3 drivers, Jack, Bucek, and Ignace, they've got 44 seconds between Jack on P17 and Maverick on the P16. So it was a huge disadvantage for them. Of course, Dormati right now have a chance also to fight with Roloski, and we're back for the racing. Kashti is really close to Tazo, the main 2 rivalries right now since the previous season. As we can tell, Kashti would be pushing really hard today because he wants to fight with Tazo, of course, for the championship. But we cannot forget that we also have a track on the track, Roloski, that is gaining a huge advantage in front of the Dormati. Just before the virtual safety car shows up, we've seen 2 seconds in front of the Dormati. That was really impressive.
Absolutely. Roloski, I think, is going to just run away with this race if he gets the chance to. Kashti is going to be trying to run away here and get a run on Tazo into turn 1. Isn't able to get the run through, sticks it behind for just a little bit, but now we go through into Villeneuve here, and is he going to be able to get the path? He is not. So Kashti sticking behind here. Will he try to have a dive up the inside of Toza? Because he is close enough to do that, 0.2 of a second the gap, and he isn't going to go for it. He'll try to get a drag off the line here down towards Piratella, and tries to just stick behind here Tazo, put the pressure on Tazo, and wait for a mistake, which is a very, very good strategy, especially when you've got the fast Alfa Romeo John Meister behind you, starting to catch you as well. We know Kashti's on the medium tires, the slightly faster compound right now, but those tires should wear out a little bit faster. So he's got to get the pass done sooner rather than later if he wants to try to build up a bit of a gap on Tazo.
Right now we also can see that Jack is catching much better Bucek, 4 tenths behind him. So maybe he will be able to catch him and maybe overtake. We will see, but it's still a long story in front of the Jack because he still have a job to do on the track. It's still almost 26 laps in front of us, so we still have time. Everything might happen right now. JJ in front of the Mati, he beautiful overtake him right now using the DRS, and now JJ is coming back to P9, so it's so good to see you once again on the track, brother. Of course, we really missed JJ in the previous season when he decided to Also Mega a little bit break from the racing. Butchik right now with the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 18.6. So yeah, the race is start getting more intense right now.
Yeah, drivers are starting to pick up the pace a little bit here. 6 laps of 32 have been completed. And of course, JJ wants to get a win in Imola. Why does JJ want to win in Imola? Because JJ's a Ferrari at heart. We all know JJ wears the red in his heart, and for the longest time was our Ferrari driver. It was a shock when we saw JJ leave Ferrari for Williams and join up with Debe, but sometimes your time comes to an end. We've seen it with the greats like Seb, Vettel, Kimi Raikkonen, Fernando Alonso. We've seen drivers leave Ferrari and go on to other teams to varying degrees of success, just like we're seeing right now. Tazo, Puash, and John Meister with varying degrees of passes happening here. John Meister up to P4, Tazo P5, Puash P6. This is our closest battle on track right now for this P4. Roloski has stretched his lead on Matoush to 1.8 seconds now, and Kashti 1.6 seconds back. Kashti trying to have a run, just hoping that Tazo continues to fall down the order, because of course Kashti and Tazo are our current P1 and P2 drivers championships competing through, and Tazo really wants to stretch out that 23-point lead that he has on Kashti.
I'm also very glad that we have Roloski in AlphaTauri, because as we can see, this is a much better performance that I shown on the track. And yeah, I believe Kashti now have a much better teammate in his team, so I believe both of them can possibly fight for the very good points for AlphaTauri and maybe fight for the Constructor Championship also. But as you mentioned, Kashti will know that he have to push really badly, because he want to join probably Roloski in P2. The chances are very hard to predict right now. Right now also Tazo is double overtaken by Puchac and Nota on the main straight, and I don't want to believe what I'm currently seeing. Tazo is showing lack of the pace, isn't it?
Yeah, Tazo, I think it's the tire compound. Tazo's on the hard tires, and right now I think the hard tires just aren't working as effectively. We've seen the sun start to hide as this race has gone on, so I think if the drivers have been told to expect weather, if the teams have been told to expect any weather near the end of the race, the drivers are trying to hold on here and just run long on the hard compound tires. We're seeing Wasserschwein dropping back here, and it looks like Wasserschwein spinning there into, that is Toza. I have to get my bearings on the track there for a second. And so Wasserschwein dropping a couple places. But yeah, as you said, Syntax, Tazo not showing ultimate pace here, and I think Tazo is just trying to play the long game here and wants to try to run just one pit stop, make things through, maybe hoping for a safety car to bunch things up and let him change strategy just enough to get things in his favor there in the Red Bull.
And also, I believe Tazo have some problems with the battery. His light behind his car is still lightning, so isn't that call for any other driver that Tazo don't have a battery? Right now we see Puchac spun in front of the Tazo and Graxen, so both of them are gaining one position. JJ, Mate also, so even Storek, so it's a very good coming back from Storek that we have seen. He start almost over back on the grid, so it's a very good opportunity for him to join the fight for the points. But even though Tazo is maybe not struggling, but there's something, I believe there's something strange in this, maybe about the strategy. Maybe Tazo decided to hold as much as possible the hard compound until the rain will fall down. I'm not sure, because we don't see the weather, of course. But even though just right on his back he have a Grax and 410s just behind him, so I believe there will be an overtake, so we can watch that fight. Both of them are coming to the main straight, and then we will see how much Tazo will hold his P6.
Absolutely. Gracton's got DRS here, so Gracton should have a bit of a pace advantage with Slipstream. Is he going to be close enough for any sort of a lunge here going into the first chicane here of Tamburello? He's not, but Gracton is holding a lot of pace here on Tazo, and this is where I get a little bit nervous. I almost wonder if Gracton or if Tazo's not carrying any sort of damage from maybe something that happened in lap 1 that we're just not aware of, but I don't see anything on the car that should be slowing him down, and he's not really losing pace to Noda. He's stayed within about that 1.5 second range there on Noda. As far as I've been able to tell, the front 5 are very, very comfortable in their places here. Rolowski 2 seconds up, Matoush 2.5 seconds up on Kashti, and then we've got 1.2 seconds to John Meister. We've got Puhash and Extra there. What just happened there? It looks like Ektrek had a moment and dropping back a bit there, and is now under pressure from Barthez coming out of Aqua Minerale, but is going to be able to hold on. And that is Debe in the background spinning coming out of Aqua Minerale, keeping it out of the barriers, thankfully, but Debe with a big spin there, not what you want to see, and now the rear tires are overheated, trying to hold on to it here, and Debe is going to settle back in and lose a couple of positions out of that. It looks like that is going to be Bimolino that is going to be able to slingshot around him, I would imagine. So Debe with one little error there, and that can cost you significantly here at Imola with such a short lap.
Barthez also right now with the DRS, but he weren't able to catch Dextorek. Probably Dextorek used a lot of energy just to hold his P11 currently, of course. With a very close fight with the Jack. Right now, Bemolina decided to attack Debe, and he done it just in front of the Debe right now. And we can see first drop of the rain right now on the 11th lap. So right now we can tell that the race is starting to becoming, I will say, the most interesting part, because right now everything might happen, and you know that, Bradley.
Absolutely. I think at this point the question becomes which driver blinks first and goes to the pit lane, and does that bring the entire grid behind them? This is where we see the big mix-ups happen. This is where we see the decisions that can make or break a race. For example, say Rolowski pits in just one lap too early and overheats the intermediates and wrecks, and Graxant decides to dive around the inside of Tazo as I'm talking about this. But say he pits just a little bit too early, and then drivers pit at the right time behind him, and Rolowski loses time. Or say Tazo pits at the right time, but Graxant doesn't, and then Tazo's able to jump back ahead of Graxant through pit strategy. This is where we start to see the big names made in the pit wall. This is where the engineers make their money and do their jobs every week with planning their pit strategies for their teams. And I'm curious to see how long it takes a driver to decide to pit. DRS is still enabled at this point, of course, so not the transition point according to the FIA, but it should be coming up fairly soon, I'd imagine. We'll see here as we've got 20 laps to go here, Syntex.
Yeah, 20 laps, and still everything might happen. Tazo is still holding in the DRS part, I would say, on Graxant, but I'm not sure that Tazo, I believe Tazo have some problems with his controller. We were training a few days ago, and he was telling me that he have some problems with his ERS button, so I hope everything with his controller is okay. Maybe because of that he don't have a battery, maybe he is not able to turn it off, so we can tell it's like more technical issue. So as a Red Bull have some issues on the beginning of the previous ERL session, but first one who decided to go for the Inters is Storek right now on the 13th lap. So the start, it start to becoming a very interesting double right now with the 5-second penalty just for the speeding into the pit lane. Bemolina probably will be the second, so both of our Alpines will be going on the intermediate compound.
Williams coming in as well. Wasserschwein's in. Wasserschwein missing a front wing, so there's a front wing change going on there in the Aston Martin garage as well. DRS has now been disabled. This is typically what drivers in F1 look for as their transition point. This is when they decide where the transition point is between being on wet compound tires, intermediate tires, wet tires, and dry tires. This is where the decision from dries to intermediates usually is whenever there is that call. And we've got Rolowski, our race leader, into the pits now there for the AlphaTauris, and Kashti is going to actually be double stacking behind. Needs to be a clean stop here in AlphaTauri, and Rolowski is away, and AlphaTauri pulling off a mega double stop there. Kashti only having to slow down for just a second. That was beautiful. Kashti also having to replace the front wing, so that's going to add a few seconds, but in terms of how you double stack a team, that was picture perfect pulled off from Rolowski and Kashti.
I wouldn't say that better, really. You took it from my mouth, literally, because it was perfect timing from both drivers, from Kashti and Rolowski, equal pits, and that was just pure perfection. But even though we still have a few drivers on the track that didn't decide to go to the pit, we see that Dormati and I'm sorry, Mateusz and Matej. I don't have a nickname as you have. But still, Mateusz and Matej, both of them have the same name, so I could say Mateusz 1 and Mateusz 2. But even though both of them probably will decide to go to the pit lane right now, just to make sure that they have a much better time in front of the rest on the grid, but Rolowski is pushing really, really hard, so I'm not sure about that Rolowski, John Meister, maybe even Gragson will jump into the higher place on the grid right now. We will see. Right now, Dormati changing his tires for the Inters. Mati also joining him on the pit lane. Right now, Rolowski is going on the main straight, and I don't believe that Rolowski will be on the second place. Dormati is going out from the pit lane, but Rolowski jumped him just certainly in front of him, and right now Mate also fall down on the P5, P6, maybe even P7. We will see. Yeah, P7, P8, and then there's going JJ P9, so he didn't earn any position, I would say, because as I remember, he was just behind the JJ.
Absolutely, and that's the big thing with the pit strategy, is opting to be the last driver to pit can be a brave decision. It can sometimes work out if everyone's pitting a little too early, but depending on track position, it can lose you time. And it seems like for Matty going down into P9, but Mateusz up into P2 now, and I've noticed Kashti's down into P7, Tazo P2. So after this round of pit stops to intermediate tires, things are mixed up just a little bit for us, looking at who has gained and lost positions here. So we've got Kashti now picking up a 3-second time penalty, but Gragson's up 5 places. Our top 3, Rolowski, Mateusz, John Meister, right where they started. Gragson's up 5 places. Noda's up 4. JJ is up 5. Extrareck and Barthez are both up 8 places apiece. Bimolino and Debe gaining, and then of course our big losers, Maverick, Puhash, Kashti, who are down positions. Wasserschwein is down 4. Jack is down 2 places in P19 at the moment. So if you're some of those drivers in the back, you've got fingers crossed for a safety car right now. But if you're some of the drivers in the front, you know, Mateusz, Rolowski, John Meister, you've got several second gaps. John Meister is 9 seconds back on P2. You just want to let the race run. You just want to let things finish how they finish. But if the rain starts to get heavier, we could see things mix up quite a bit.
Yeah, and as we can see right now, the situation on the grid just became more peaceful, I would say. The only one who can like somehow fight is Kashti versus Nota, and I would say maybe Puhac against Mati, and Tazo of course versus Gragson. These drivers are currently closer to each other on the whole grid lane, and right now we can see that Tazo came back a little bit with his pace, so he's trying to catch Gragson right now. Maybe he will perform the attack for P4, we don't know that yet.
He sends it over the sausage curbs there, and that's a very, very gutsy decision to send it over the sausage curbs there, and Alta heading down towards the Ravata. He's trying to get a bit of a run here on Gragson, which you can't fault him for at all, and it might be a little bit of a loss of traction. Of course, DRS disabled now, so it's all about pure pace. and just your ability to get a pass done here. Half a second, the gap. You can see the gap coming down with the help of Slipstream there as we run down the main straight heading towards Tamburello. Tazo is going to get the gap down to about 0.3 of a second, 2.5 tenths, and now it's just a matter of can Tazo maintain the closeness there to the car in front. And of course, we're now officially at the halfway distance and past the halfway distance. So for these drivers, this is where you start pushing. And Syntax, as you know and as you're experienced with, this is where you really, really need to find your time and try to take advantage of any opportunity that presents itself.
Yeah, exactly. And you just have to wait and be really respectful for the time and opportunity that you will be able to perform the attack. So Tazo still have a lot of time to just wait for the best moment to attack Graxen. And as we can also see, Graxen and Tazo both all together coming closer to the John Meister. So I believe both of them will be trying to attack that podium place on the podium. But still, Graxens have a little bit better exits on the turns, of course, comparing to the Tazo. So that battle for P3 might be a very interesting until the end of the race.
Absolutely. Half the race left to go here, just under halfway, and we've got Graxen just a second back on John Meister. The gap's opening a little bit down the main straight, and you've got Tazo, who we're riding on board with here, who is 0.6 back on Graxen. Rain continuing to be fairly steady, just enough for intermediate tires, not dry enough for any sort of dry compounds, just a steady little rain here that's forced the intermediates to come out, and we'll see if the weather continues to develop or if things dry up a little bit near the end. That will be what will really make or break things, is if we have any sort of safety cars and the weather starts to get a little worse, or maybe the weather dries out, and then you have varying strategy of, well, who's going to risk it and stay out on the inters, who's going to come in for the wets. It'll be very, very mixed up through. JJ is 0.3 of a second off of Kashti here, so we'll jump back and check in on that battle as well. 0.3 of a second separating out Kashti and JJ for P7 as we continue to watch. Tazo, Graxen have opened up just a little bit there on John Meister, so that battle I think is calming down for just the time being as we watch JJ here trying to keep within half a second of Kashti and keep the slipstream and try to have a run down the main straight. And will JJ be able to get any sort of a pace advantage here as we head through Ravaza? And it looks like potentially he's able to hold that gap around 0.7, maybe a little bit better of a corner exit there for Kashti. So things really settling down. Graxen with a good run here on John Meister. This is kind of reminiscent of what we saw Valtteri and George do when we were in Emilia in 2020, I believe that was. And tried to think about having a peak, just wasn't close enough to have the pace advantage. And now we jump back again because Kashti had a big error there going through Tamburello or Villeneuve, and unfortunately that cost him P7 there. JJ's able to get by. The gap now 2 seconds there, and now if you look right behind Kashti, you have Maddie there in the Red Bull that is going to start pressuring.
So we can say right now that both Kashti and Tazo are missing something today. What is it? I'm not sure. Maybe it's more stress situation for them. I'm not sure. Maybe it's all about the Imola. Maybe don't they feel the track. I'm not sure. But what is more, Bradley, just check it out. P1 and P2 right now.
That gap has came down considerably in the last little bit. That has been a big change in pace there. So I'm going to say this is probably going to heat up a bit here as we watch. And right now, gap 1.1 seconds between Rolowski and Matoush. Of course, 12 laps to go, Syntax, and it's not outside of the realm of possibilities for Matoush to be able to get a pass done here for the win.
But even though it's still 12 laps to go, and if Mateusz will be able to perform the attack on the Rolowski, and maybe, I'm just speculating, but maybe if there's something's happened between both of them, John Meister, Graxen, Tazo, even Nota have a chance to fight for a really good amount of points for today's race, and maybe something could happen. We don't know, because just look at this. Mateusz, call it whatever you want, still closing the gap to the Rolowski, and it's going to be much intense as it was.
And it looks like Cashty spinning there through, going towards Aqua Minerale. He's in Piratella right now and spinning out. Yellow flag sector 2. Everybody is still underway. Nothing crazy here. Tazo is 0.4 of a second back on Graxton. Mateusz is half a second back on Rolowski. So these battles are continuing to heat up. 0.3 of a second the gap now between Graxton and Tazo. So the run down here to turn 1, if Tazo can stay close enough, we could see a pretty considerable little jump, a little bit better of an exit there from Graxton. But look at Tazo here. Very clean run down the main straight, trying to hold on. You could see the sparks flying off of Graxton's Ferrari. Graxton is trying to do the Tifosi proud here and doing a fairly good job at it, I must say. As we see, rain is still steadily falling, just enough to keep the track damp. And Tazo with a little bit of a moment there, exiting out of Tamburello, going towards Villanova. And you have to be careful on those curves. That was a better job there from Tazo. So Tazo's holding on. And we've got Cashty into the pits for wet weather tires. That is a interesting decision to be made there.
As far as I know, Cashty isn't the driver who really like to take the risk, but I'm not sure, to be honest, about the whether that is heavy raining or not. I'm sure that Cashty definitely lose something with that span and probably making some damage in front of his car. Right now, Debe and Vassar just took advantage of that pit stop from Cashty, and he's currently on the P15 with the wet compound. So we will see. It's still 11 laps to go. Maybe that strategy will bring him some glory. We don't know, but this might be definitely a hard way and hard journey in front of him. But even though, just look at the Tazo, he's closing really close right now, almost going wheel to wheel, but I believe that Tazo will step back just to not take any incident on the turn 1, still holding very close to the Graxton. Still a beautiful defending from Graxton and beautiful performing attack from Tazo. So both drivers are right now in the flying mode. I would say it's like the hammer type. But even though the Mateusz cannot jump in front of the Rolowski, so that fight might be really close, but is really possible for Mateusz to being able to jump in front of the Rolowski. It's hard to say.
Yeah, the two drivers in front have crazy pace, and I thought Graxton had lost out on P4 there for just a moment because he had a big moment there coming out of Toza, and I thought that was going to be it, and Tazo was going to be able to get by, but able to put the car in the right places to defend. But look at the run here that Tazo has. Tazo going over the sausage curves there, staying within 0.2 of a second on Graxton here as we're going to have the run down towards Ravazza, and who here is going to be able to bring it home and come around. It looks like we're still staying out, and leaders not responding to Cashty's decision to go on wet tires, which to me spells disaster for Cashty. I wonder if Cashty maybe accidentally just put on the wrong tires there going into the pits, and it was just a poor strategy call. That is possible here. We've seen it happen before. It's very unfortunate. Tazo sticking within 0.2 of a second now on Graxton, just close enough to put the pressure on, hoping for Graxton to make an error, trying to keep pace here. And as we're on lap 23 of 32, we're within 10 laps to go as the drivers come around here again, heading towards Toza for the 23rd time. And again, look at Cashty actually starting to gain a little bit of speed here on Debe. I'm going to jump back here. I know we've got this battle up front, but Cashty, maybe?
It's not even a little advantage, it's a huge advantage. Cashty lost almost 2 seconds behind it, but right now it's less than a second.
And there we go. We have our next car responding here. Debe into the pits here, picking up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. What will the Williams Racing Team put on this F1 car? It looks like they have new tires prepped out. and it looks like it is the wet tires going on for Debe. Maverick responding down in P19 going on to wet tires. So is this the turning point? Roloski staying out another lap here. So we see some of the back markers pitting in, but Kashti up to P14 now. Something has changed significantly within the past 2 laps, and these wet tires are coming alive. Yellow flag sector 1, and that is going to be a Ferrari off the track. That is not Graxton, that is Jack that has went off the track there in the first sector. He's back underway now, but leaders not responding to these pit stops from Debe, Maverick, and Kashti, but they're going to be watching very closely. Rain has started to pick up just a little bit more as we come into 8 laps to go. And Syntax, if the leaders don't respond, we could see Kashti in a very, very good place. We've seen this happen in real life where people pit early enough in. We've seen it happen. AD Gamer in Barcelona in season 4, I believe it was. Might have been season 3. We saw that happen with the great pit strategy and was able to come back from outside the top 10 to win the race. Are we about to see something happen there? Extrac is now into the pits, so the drivers are getting the call to transition over to wet tires, and I think we're about to see a little bit of magic here with 8 laps to go, Syntax.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe Dormati is starting to losing some grip and struggling a little bit on this intermediate compound. So maybe deciding to going for the wets might be a really good decision. But even though if Roloski will handle with that, I truly believe that Dormati would also not stepping back to changing the current wheels that he have with the intermediate compound. So it might be a fight until the end. Even though Jack right now, I believe, just spun in the. Oh no, he decided to step back and retire from the race. But even though I saw Kashti spinning right now in the beginning of the sector 2, Kashti currently on the P16. I never seen situation like this before with Kashti. It's so sad to look at this.
Absolutely, and there goes Kashti spinning very, very hard again there. That is going through Piratella and pirouetting through Kashti does. So Kashti now through, and I don't know, I would have to assume that's a mechanical issue or some sort of an issue with the rig, because that is a DNF out in the second sector in Piratella, and it seemed like the throttle was just stuck. I don't know what happened there, but it seemed like the throttle was stuck and it sent him straight into the wall there. I'd be interested to hear from the driver what happened there, but we're back underway. So we've lost 3 drivers in this race: Jack, Kashti, Bernard. And we now have a safety car with 7 to go. And now the leaders are going to respond and go into the pits. Roloski's in. Matouche is in. John Meister is just now coming around Ravazza. Is John Meister going to pit? Or is John Meister going to risk it here on the intermediate tires? Debe picking up a penalty for corner cutting. John Meister is in. Graxon is in. Tazo stays out. So Red Bull opting to stay out here, even though every other driver is going to disagree with this decision and go in. Tazo stays out on the intermediate tires. 7 laps to go here, Syntax, and we can see everyone fitting in wet tires except for Roloski on intermediates here, coming out into P2 just ahead of JJ. JJ on intermediates, P3, Matouche wet tires, Maddie, John Meister onto wet tires, Graxit takes intermediates, Noda takes intermediates, Puhash taking wets down in the Mercedes garage, and then everyone else is, I don't believe, has made it around the track yet to the pit lane to see if they pit. So Barthez coming into the pit lane now pitting. We'll see what McLaren has prepped for him. Syntax, what a mixed strategy. What is...
Yeah.
What I haven't seen this before.
Exactly, and as we can see clearly, there is something happening, and I'm not sure. Oh yeah, Vixie just tried to unlap himself and he just DNF'd because it was like ignoring the yellow flag, and I still don't believe that there is no option for unlapping yourself under the safety car. It's so... Oh, I will not use bad words on the stream. We all know that I specifically love Cody's for making us such great game. But let's go back to the business, as people are saying, and look at the table. Tazo currently P1 with the intermediates. even though maybe just to make an example, we'll have a safety car maybe 2 laps more. So even though Tazo right now will be able to save his tires, and it wouldn't be a problem just to drive 4 laps to go on the, I will say, like, not even used to the intermediates, but right now Tazo decided to go to the box, so Tazo will lose a lot, a lot. Also, Mate decided to go for the wet compound, so I'm really, really sad to say that, but both of Red Bulls will lose a lot of points right now, deciding to go for the wets. Even though Roloski just on the fresh pair of them intermediate, JJ on the P2. Do you believe that, Bradley? It's like a miracle on the Christmas.
I love that JJ's in P2, but I worry because JJ is 100% on the wrong tire right now. Just look how heavy the rain is falling. We've got puddles forming on the track outside of the racing line. So I don't know that Rolowski and JJ are in a good position. Same with Wasserschwein, Ignis, and Barthez. Even though Rolowski is on a brand new set of intermediates, I think this is a bad strategy call here from Rolowski. But I'm not the driver, so I'm not the one to decide here. We'll see how it works out. I would say we're probably going to get 4 laps of green flag racing to finish out this race. And then Matoush, John Meister, Puhash, and Tazo are in very, very strong positions right now for finishing on the podium. They're in very, very good spots as they are on wet tires, and we can see just how much water is puddling up on the track. This is going to be an interesting sprint to the finish.
Yes, I can fully agree with that. Maybe somehow, if Rolowski and JJ will be able to hold the pace on the intermediate compound, it might be a really, really interesting ending. But I believe this is going to be tough for everyone. And I'm really glad that I'm not involving into this race, because I will have no idea how to behave, which strategy to pick, and I will probably do exact same thing as Rolowski is doing right now. But if I will be driving, there wouldn't be Rolowski on the track. So in that scenario, JJ will be leading right now in the race.
Absolutely. We're going to have at least one more lap under safety car here. Safety car, the Aston Martin safety car is out and moving and putting down some pretty good lap times here, I would say, for being just a safety car. They are ready to get this race back underway. The Molino Gaucho picking up a penalty for collision with Debe. I don't know what happened there. That was really weird.
But why? So, with Debe?
It's there's 2 cars between them. What? I'll need an instant replay of that one later.
But as we always saying, it's a steward job. We are glad we don't have to do that, Bradley. So just let's focus on that crazy finish that is coming in front of us.
Agreed. Drivers are coming through second sector here. They are heading up towards Piratella, which is then going to bring them into Aqua Minerale. We will see here drivers behaving themselves with warming up tires too. I was worried we were going to see someone bend the car under safety car trying to warm up tires, but haven't seen that so far, which is a very, very good thing. Coming through Aqua Minerale now, and when the safety car calls in...
Ooh, JJ.
Oh, JJ, making me nervous. Making me nervous, JJ. Hold it on the track here for just a few laps, buddy.
Don't do that. We know that you like to sometimes make your races more magical, like ending it before the actual end of the race, but not now, JJ. Just hold it, and drive it until the end. Make that miracle possible to happen. But even though, if something's happened, Rolowski and JJ, if the intermediate compounds wouldn't be enough, Dormati, John Meister, Puhac, and Tazo, expecting John Meister because he have a 3-second time penalty, Dormati, Puhac, and Tazo are able to reach the podium.
Absolutely. Rolowski has control of the field. He's waiting as long as possible to get things going. And now, there we go, Rolowski, JJ, and you can see already Matoush is trying to get past JJ here with a bit of a pace advantage that I wasn't expecting. He's side by side here as they have the run down towards Tamburello. And
ooh, not like this.
Oh.
Not like this.
The intermediates proving with no grip there, and it was very, very close there. So Matoush is up into P2 now, JJ dropping down into P6, and there's a big snap of oversteer there from Matoush. Rolowski now falling back even with that, so Rolowski now falling way down the grid there, being on those intermediate tires. I thought the track was a little too wet, and unfortunately it looks like it's proving true. You can see Rolowski snapping the rear end out there. 3 wide going through here, Tazo, Puhash, Rolowski, and who is going to come out on top? Rolowski holding onto the P3 there. Tazo on the inside of Puhash, who is going to get around Rolowski first. They both settle back in, going through Aqua Minerale here, and Rolowski holding on, slowing up both cars now, and Tazo up on the rear end there of Rolowski. Rolowski trying to hold on to P3 here as much as he can, but look in the background, 3 wide through the Williams, the Alpine, everybody there holding on. Who is going to have that?
Oh my God. Did you see that, Bradley?
I did not see that, but Puhash through into P3.
Yeah, he just overtaked Tazo and Rolowski on the chicane corner on the exit, and that was a really beautiful move from Puhash. Right now, Tazo have a difficult moment because he will finish on the P3, I believe. But still, Puhash is losing 3 seconds. So if Puhash and Tazo wouldn't speed up a lot right now, John Meister will hold his second place. So both of drivers really need to speed up. Even though I just want to go back with that incident against Dormati and JJ. I'm not sure that you've seen that, but Mateusz pushed out of the track JJ. That's why JJ went on the sand on the right side on the T1.
Absolutely. Rolowski is getting ganged up on right now. I don't know if you're seeing this, Syntex, but Rolowski has dropped all the way back to P9 now from starting way ahead, and now Rolowski down into P10, so Rolowski has lost a bunch of time here from being on the wrong tire compound. JJ down into P13 now. Up front here, we've got Tazo, who is 4/10 of a second back on Puhash. Puhash is 3.4 back on John Meister, and now they are attempting to get the run here. Yellow flag sector 2, that is Ignis, who has spun there in Aqua Minerale. It doesn't look like it's going to be a safety car for anything. 2 laps to go here. We're going down through Ravazza here, following Tazo, who is trying to get around Puhash, and Tazo with a very good run there, ends up side by side out of the corner exit. Tazo up into the podium, paying places. 4 seconds back on John Meister now, and now you've got Noda there in the McLaren, who is showing some impressive pace here, trying to chase down Puhash. Puhash with the slipstream against Tazo. Noda's going to back out a little bit. Puhash looking up the inside there, trying to stick a front wing through, not close enough to hold on to that, so Puhash P4. Tazo up into the podium, paying places. 2 laps to go here, Syntax. And Graxon is also having a good run on X-Track here. 3/10 back there, but look how heavy the rain is now. It is hard just to see the cars on the track.
Yeah, so I can only imagine how difficult the situation on the track is, really. And Tazo just game of Tazo just crashed right now, so Puhash have opportunity to overtake Tazo, but still, if Tazo wouldn't coming back as fast as possible, he will lose his podium. Right now, Puhash overtake Tazo. Oh my. Tazo just came back to the lobby, and even Storek just overtaked him, I believe. Or it weren't Storek, I believe it was some Williams, so it might be a Debe. But even though it isn't a really good situation for Tazo, even Storek right now just overtake him. Even Graxon and even Mate is coming right now. No, Tazo just showed up, and that must be heartbreaking.
I would love to have in-car radios to hear what Tazo is saying right now. We probably couldn't play it on stream, but it would be interesting to know here. Graxon has Tazo less than 1/10 of a second behind here, going into the final lap, and Tazo is going to be on a tear here to try to get back up front. But now our top 3, Matoush, John Meister, and Puhash. Matoush 3.3 seconds up on the lead right now. You can see just how heavy the rain has gotten here at the end of the race. And Matoush is coming around, going through Piratella as the rest of the field is coming through Toza there. And for Matoush, it's been a fairly good race, fairly uneventful. He's kept things together. I'm sure that pass is going to be reviewed by the stewards that he had on JJ, so we'll see how that goes through. Barthez on Graxent. That pass just took Barthez up to P6, Graxent P7. Tazo is down to 8th, was running up in P3. Very unfortunate moment there. And now we see another pass here. Graxent dropping down as Graxent has had a big spin there heading towards Aqua Minerale. But as Graxent gets his stricken Ferrari going here at the home of the Tifosi, it is going to be an American win for Haas, as Haas comes around with Matoush coming around the final corner, the Ravazza, and that is going to be the win here for Matoush here in round 5. John Meister is going to bring the Alfa Romeo home for P2. Puash will come across for P3, and not close enough for penalties to help out. Extract P4, Matty Tazo is going to come across here. P6, no front wing on that Red Bull. I'm not sure what happened there. We've got Buchik coming P7, the other Haas. Noda and Barthez bringing it home P8, P9 from McLaren. And Rolowski, who dominated most of the race, is going to bring it home. The last driver in P10 there. Dominated for a majority of the race, but a poor strategy call near the end cost him. And as you can see, Gracknet just celebrating finishing this race. And then JJ.
No, JJ.
JJ did make it across the line for a P11. Graxton actually ends up finishing P12. And then that was, I don't know who that was that just shot off there at the very end. So some very tricky conditions, extremely wet conditions by the end. You can see just the waves of rain blowing across the track here. And the driver's doing well just to finish. What a race.
Yeah, and fully deserved driver of the day for Storek. He really improved himself and showed a very, very good skills today. And I can fully agree with the driver of the day goes for him. He started the race on the back of the grid and showed us a really true pace, and finishing P4 is a very, very good result for the very young driver.
Absolutely. Haas F1 team are going to be celebrating this win. Buchik and Matoush are currently P5 and P7 in the Drivers' Championship. They're currently P4 constructors, and this is going to help their bid to catch up to Red Bulls of Matty and Tazo significantly. So looking through Matoush, John Meister, Puhash rounding out our podium. Extra Matty, Tazo, Buchik, Noda, Barthez, Rolowski finishing P10 after starting P1. Extra started P19, finishing P4, then rounding out our last half of the field, JJ, Graxent, Wasserschwein, Ignis, Bimolino, Gaucho, Debe, Kashti, Jack, Bernard, and Maverick, the bottom three drivers DNFing out. And Syntex, what a race that was. 45 minutes of great action, 32 laps, varying conditions throughout, and in the end, Matoush with that pass on JJ for the win that we know is going to be reviewed, and I'm curious to see what comes out of that.
Amazing race today, and I hope in the next upcoming races we will see also a very interesting moments and beautiful fights as we always have. And today's race, so it was a pass, so I believe few drivers just want to forget about the Imola race, and I hope the upcoming weeks will be much better for them.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been our round 5 here at Imola. Join us next week, round 6 in Abu Dhabi, and I hope Syntex, I'll see you back with me. We'll be back split 2, split 1 streams. If you're interested in joining the league, of course, check out our Discord, check out our socials, come follow us, come check out what it means to be a part of FRL. Syntex, any closing thoughts?
It's so good to be back.
Absolutely great to have you back, Syntex. Of course, Syntex, my better half here in the commentating booth. My name is Brad. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you the same time next week here on FRL on Twitch. Signing off for now. And it looks like Noda is going to be your winner of this Portuguese Grand Prix. Is your champion. JJ splits the middle, gets past both drivers.